All right, well, welcome tonight. We are doing our class called Gmail and More. And I'm Amanda. I'm a library assistant here at Middleton Public Library. And this class is primarily going to be focused on looking at Gmail, how to use it, and then some extra Google applications that are out there, like Calendar, and we'll touch on photos. And we can always, there's so many of them that I have to try and focus on just a few, because there are hundreds of apps that Google has created that are in the kind of Google universe. So we're just going to focus on a few to start. But if you have questions about a specific one, we can probably talk about those at the end. So to start, so we're looking at my Gmail. So most of this has just my my work email forwarded in. So you might see some stuff about the library or our South Central library system. Nothing in here should be super confidential, so I think it should be fine here. But this is, once you make a Gmail account, this is what it looks like when you open up your inbox. So when you make a Gmail account, they do ask for your first, last name. They ask you to create a username, and they will let you know if someone has already taken that name. If that happens, then usually they will suggest a different one that might be similar, or you can try with a whole new one. Then you'll create a password, and then they do also ask to put in your birthday. That is for purposes of, most of the time you have to be 13 in order to have any kind of presence on the internet. So they're just covering all of their stuff there for that. But if you never want to actually give your birth date out, no one's going to know whether or not you make it up. I know a lot of people that do. So those are just kind of the main things that they ask. And then you would set up your profile if you wish. If you have any contacts from previous emails, you can always bring those in, or you can start fresh, whichever way you want. But we're gonna kind of start here. So here's our main inbox, and this is the kind of classic look. I'll show you in a moment how to change the themes if you want it to look different. But here on the left side, you do have your main menu. So when you pop or click on it, it kind of goes back in and it pops back out. This does look a little different on a mobile device. So I do have a handout. I'm going to just pop in the chat here for you that you can look at right now if you want. Otherwise, it's totally okay to not look at it right now and just have it to look at later. But it's a PDF, and in that I do have some screenshots of how things look in the mobile devices, for phones and iPads or tablets. So that does have examples in there, since today we're kind of looking at the desktop version. So all you would need to do is click the handout in the chat to open, and then you would just need to do a file and save to your device. So that could be for you to reference later. But so when you're on the desktop version here, like I said, if you click over on the menu, you can make the menu go away, or it can pop out. So if at any time it does go away and you didn't press anything, you should be able to just click on the 3 line menu that is in the left corner to be able to get that to come back out. The top is your inbox, and then it can, you can also I have it set up where if you look here across the top, there's primary, promotions, and social. And that I have displayed up here on the top. You can have it displayed here. If I hit my more section, I can also then have it here. So I've changed that. I think to start, it should be here. This is a way that Gmail uses its kind of folders and such to get your spam out. There is a spam folder, but oftentimes it thinks things that are spam are really advertisements and promotions from stores that you might have actually signed up for. So they do like to split that out to try to make it easier for you to read your inbox. So you start with your inbox. The next section here is starred. So if at any point you have starred an email, if you click here, it'll pop up. So here's some stuff that I starred that is specific to some of my coworkers, and that's just a way to flag things. I know in like Outlook, I think that is called flagging, or if you use like an Apple email client, you can also flag and change the colors. So here in Gmail, you would have the star. You also have a snooze section. That would probably be used if you had something that you needed to get to later in the day that's important, but you need to work on something else. So if you hit snooze, you can then set how long to snooze your item for. So I don't think I've ever had anything in there before, but it would show up here and have tell you how long or when it is it's going to notify you about it. You also have your sent folder and any ongoing drafts. And then, like I said, there's this more section after this. So this would be, you can schedule emails, that's down there. All mail is here because you can archive things, and they would no longer be in your inbox. If you archive it, you're going to find it in all mail. Then you have your spam, and then trash. Trash, if you notice this message here, it does say that if things have been in here for more than 30 days, they're automatically going to get deleted. So you don't necessarily have to keep track of what's in here. It more stays in here for that many days in case you accidentally put something here. You always have the option to hit the empty trash now, which I can just go ahead and do. So it tells me it's going to be 124 messages, and I hit OK. But those are all just kind of the main sections of your menu here. So let's go back up to inbox. And your settings for your mail is over on the right corner, top corner there. And when you click that, you do have kind of a quick settings that pops up for things like the density of everything. And that's just how everything is laid out and listed. Then you also have themes. So I said you could choose right now, this is on the default Gmail theme, but you can get fancy if you want to play with the photo that's in the background. And then how your inbox is laid out to you, you can also customize. And there really is no right or wrong for any of that. It's just what you like or what looks better or more appeasing to the eye. So I have no recommendations on that. And then same with the reading pane. If you want to have, like I have no sample or able to read the message beforehand. That's would be if you wanted it to the right of it or below it, or email threading. So I have conversation view turned off because I don't like how things get all bumped up into one conversation. It's hard for me personally to be able to find things. Some people really like the conversation view. So that's just the back and forth between one person will just stay in one instead of each email being separate. So if that is something that you don't like and you want to turn off, this is where you would turn it off. To find other settings, you would just hit see all settings at the top. And so there's some stuff that we were just talking about that's in here, but there's also things like the language. So if you need to change the language in here, your default country code, let's see, your default reply behavior. I would usually keep that to reply. Reply all can be a little dangerous if you don't always remember that that's your default, and you might accidentally send something to multiple people when you only wanted it to send to one. So I'd probably leave that myself. Things that are defaults that I don't think you really need to turn off are things like grammar suggestions, spelling, autocorrect, or writing suggestions. I do find those helpful, but if for any reason you do not want those, this is also where you would turn that off. So it's all under this first tab for general. And let's see, you can use multiple stars and different color stars if you really like using stars as a labeling tool. I just use it because I don't star a whole lot of things. I just have one, but if you like to use different colors and labels, you can use this. So it tells you to drag the stars between the lists. And there's also these other kind of labels next to it too. So there are some options if that's something that you're interested in. And one other important one as well that I think is good to pay attention to is the signature. So you can have a signature that goes on all outgoing messages. So here I do have my signature for the library that I have inserted in. And this pops up on every email that I write. So I never actually have to end my email with my name. It's just automatically there. And if you ever add something like that to here or do any changes in settings, make sure you go all the way down to the bottom because there is the Save Changes button. So you want to make sure that when you do something on there, that's where you go. The other one, other than signature in this general section, that is good to pay attention to is this vacation responder. So if you are the type of person that likes to let people know, like, hey, once I come back from vacation and see your email, I will get back to you. And so they know you can post in the message when you're going to be gone and when you're going to come back. And then again, if you did that, you would hit Save Changes. We just had a question in the chat. Can you add a logo with your signature? And yes, so that would be, sorry. Let's see. In this section where you insert your signature, so you are able to type, and then you also have this section where you can insert a link or insert an image. And so that would be an image that will come directly from your computer. So here I did insert the library's logo in that as well. Good question. So yeah, you just hit that insert image and then choose the file on your computer, and then it should insert wherever your cursor was. If you ever need to change it, there is this edit, or if you need to start all over, there is a trash button for your current signature as well. And you can also have multiple signatures. So you could go back and forth. With this create new, it would start a new one underneath here. So you could do more than one. Other parts of settings that could be helpful is labels. So labels are actually, if you would be using other email clients, you call them folders. So, I have a folder for adult services, for classes. I help out with a lot of craft programs. So I have crafting, genealogy. I also do a lot, or I do teach genealogy classes here at the library too. So that's a whole nother thing. So I get a lot of stuff from Ancestry and other places. So I usually have things go directly into these folders instead of going to my inbox. So think of labels as just a folder. I don't know why Gmail uses that word. If I had my choice, I would not use that word, but it's what they do. And you can kind of switch around the different inbox types that you have. I've never really monkeyed with that, but that is there if you wanted to go in. I think the great thing about some of the settings in here is that it does give you a little bit of an explanation on maybe why you would use these different kinds of settings. Let's see here, and in the accounts and it will tell you how much of your storage you are using. So you do get 15 gigabytes free for your email. That's included. So it tells me here I have 27% of it filled, which is not too bad of a percentage. And we also have filters and blocked addresses. So I just have some filters in there and I don't have any blocked. But if you wanted to make something, you would do create new filter. Or if you're importing filters from another email, you could also click there. And you can always edit these or delete these on the right side here. If you are forwarding anything, this is where you would do that. So currently my actual email on my computer at my desk is forwarding through this Gmail account so that I can access it from home. So it does tell me like what's enabled, what's disabled, and if you need to add a forwarding address, that would be here. Let's see, any other things? Now, there is such a thing as Google Chat, which is kind of similar to like Facebook Messenger. I have that off. I don't really use any of those things. And yeah, and then again, in general, I'm gonna, let's see here, let's do the themes, because themes, I'll just show you what it looks like when you change something. So, oh, that's hard because I'm kind of ready for fall, but not quite. So usually I'd probably do those leaves. Let's do this lake one, just for fun. Okay, so if I go back to my inbox, I don't really see the picture. Let's see when. So I changed it to Tahoe and it's not really showing me anything. I don't think I'm going to choose that one again. So that one didn't really give me any cool. Yeah, that's better. I guess we're going to go with the fun polka dots. Okay. It's actually hard to read. For the sake of the class, let's go back to the regular. So that's the majority of your settings and just kind of a run through of the things that are good to pay attention to. Next, I want to show you contacts. So over, let's see. Over here on the right side, so you have other than settings. So this is the main place where you would sign out of your account or switch to another one. You can have multiple Gmail accounts that you switch back and forth from. So here, the next to it is the Google Apps menu. So here you can get to Gmail And now we're going to go to contacts. So click on there. That's going to have so I only have actually put into Gmail these contacts, but I do have some that pop up as I type that come through my work email, but they don't originate here. So right now it just only shows those two. If you use your Gmail account for your phone, so if you have an Android phone of any kind, your contacts from your phone would pop up here because your Google account is also your Gmail account. They're kind of one and the same. It's how you access all of your Google apps. So it would list multiple here, and you can use the search function up here to search for the person. Obviously, I only have two, so it's not like it's going to have a hard time. So you could use that. And then also you have up in the left corner, a create contact. And you can do multiple contacts or just one. And when you do this, you can insert a photo if you'd like. Sometimes when you put in people's contacts and they have Gmail, it also would insert the photo they've chosen for themselves. But then you would have places for name, company or job title, email, phone, birthday, and any other notes. There's a more section if you wanted to get fancy, like phonetically how you say someone's name, if that's something that you needed to remember. And then if you also want to have in any home address, there's also that as well. And then when you're done, you would hit your save button here on the right side. So this here is telling me that you've also corresponded with someone who is a similar name. That's in the merge and fix section. So I could edit or dismiss. I'm not going to play with that right now, so I can just hit dismiss. Within each of your contacts, you can put labels. So I created a family label because and I put in the only two contacts I have for the purposes of this class. But when you are in each one, so if I hit edit, so I have a little pencil, I put relationship family, and I created a label of anything that had that relationship. But I could also just put it in label as well. Because it could be just friend instead of, family. But if you wanted to create labels, that's within here. That can be helpful if you want a group of contacts that you need to send emails to often. So if you have like a book club group, you could create a label called book club. And then anytime you wanted to send an email to the book club, you would just need to type book club, and then all of the emails that you put in that label would pop up without you having to try. So that's all done with the create label. And then once you put in each contact, you would choose the label that you've created. You can also import or export any of your contacts, like I said, from other emails or other places. If you need to export it out to send it to somebody, or you can also print. And then you also have trash. So that would be if you get rid of one of these, it goes in the trash, and you can see which contacts you put in the trash. And it also has the same rule as it'll be here for 30 days. If it's there after that, it'll be gone. You can star a contact if it's like a a contact that you frequently talk to. And if you have multiple sets of information for the same person, if you want to hide that but not get rid of it, you can always do that. That's basically archiving it. So that's also another option. So again, if you've never used contacts before, like this, or you've had a Gmail or a Google account because of an Android phone, but you've never used the Gmail side of it, all of those contacts would be in here. You would have to make sure that if you are deleting them from here, that it's okay that, because they are going to be linked. So anything that you do delete from your contacts here would be deleting it from your phone or your other devices as well. So just make sure that you're not deleting stuff that you actually need to keep for your phone. So if we go back to mail, and every time I switch around, it does open a new tab. You can close those if you don't want them open. They do like to do lots of tabs there. So if I wanted to do a new email to somebody, I have my blue compose button. This has changed over the years. Before it used to be bright orange, before it used to be a rainbow pencil, and now it's just blue. They change things all the time. Doesn't everybody in the tech world? So you have the message that pops up in the lower right corner. And here you would type out your contacts. So I'm just going to type out my husband here. Because it knows of the other email, it does pop it up, even though I technically didn't link them. But that's why I can put in Josh there. And then usually once I've chosen the contact, it will put this little bubble around it. And then I can always add more. So if I wanted to add in my sister, I also could do that. Because Gmail, when you have contacts like that, you don't have to put the comma in between when you do multiple people. However, if they're not in your contacts, you might type out the email, comma, and move on. And then Gmail knows that they're each separate, so then they will add the bubble to it itself. You also have the option for carbon copy or blind carbon copy. So the blind carbon copy is just, it only goes to that one person and they don't see the other people that are involved in the email. That's sometimes helpful if, say you're sending this out to a large group of people, it's a reminder email for some program, you can only, you can set it to blind carbon copy so that each person doesn't see all the people that get the email as well, just for privacy reasons. So that's always a nice one to use. You'd add your subject line and then your body of your email would go here. You just click and wherever your cursor is blinking, you'd type. You have a few options for formatting down at the bottom. And it does, if you notice, my signature has been inserted into this. And I do have the option, to bold, italicize, underline. I can change my text color. I can change the alignment or add bullet points. And then down here at the bottom, probably the most important thing down here, other than your formatting, would be your attach files button. So this is where you would add, if you needed to add a PDF or a photo. Here's a slide from our last class, our internet safety class. So that's just a photo. So I can hit upload. And once the blue bar goes away, I know that I have something uploaded and it's attached. I can also insert a link. So that's a nice way to have the link ready for somebody. They can just click on it right away and it should take them to the page. And then you also have different ways that you can insert files. So this here is your Google Drive insert, or if it's a photo that comes from your photo gallery, You can also say insert photo there. Or if you don't have the right signature, you could say insert signature. This is if you would have multiple signatures, you can choose which one. So it just change up this one here. You also have a trash button here. So if you decided you weren't actually going to send this email, you could hit the discard, and then it's not going to save the draft. This draft will be in trash until you empty trash, obviously. And then you also have here a redo and undo button. That can be helpful as well. And then this is your send button down at the bottom, blue. The little hat pointing down button is your option to schedule your send. So it won't send it right away. You can set it for a certain time and certain day for it to send. That's also a nice option. So I'm going to go ahead and hit trash and discard that. So if you notice over in the corner here, it says draft discarded, and I have an undo button. So this is a function, an undo function that is in Gmail, and it also is like that for sending. So if you send an email, it will say undo send, and then you would click that button. It sits there for 30 seconds. After 30 seconds, it disappears and it like officially sends your email. So you have about 30 seconds. If you accidentally sent it before you were done, or you changed your mind, just know that it always pops up in the lower left corner. So whatever action you just did, whether or not if you put it in trash or if you sent it, you have an option to hit the undo button. Obviously, I just put something in trash, so it's not that big of a deal. I could go to trash and find it. Or nope, guess not. Maybe that's only for actual emails that have sent and come back. For the sent one though, it definitely it shows up in your sent folder. Let's see. Oh, and I guess one other before we move on to the next application here. When you have already read the email, everything is just kind of a regular font, but if you haven't read it yet, if I can find anything, well, let's just make this unread. Okay, so this was me moving the handout for tonight into my email. So I change computers sometimes. So when it's not read, it's bolded. And then once I click in it and I go back, it's no longer bolded. So that's how you can tell whether or not it's been read. If you do the option click on your mouse or your trackpad, you can change that back to unread. This is also where you would hit snooze. So you could say snooze, and then you can pick your time and date. You could also, in that reply here, reply all or forward, any of those. And those buttons also are within the email when you're here. Those are up at the top. You do have labels. This more is where you can mark it as unread here within. You can move it to another folder. If you use the Google Tasks, you could add that to your task list. Another way to mark as unread, there's multiple ways. You have your trash, report as spam, and your archive. And like I said earlier, archive is a way that you can save the email, but it's just kind of be hidden away, and it's not going to be in your inbox. So it's going to look like you trashed it, but instead when you go to your menu here, it actually shows up in all mail. That's going to have all of your archives is in all mail. And then here is your reply section. So This is just directly reply to this person. Or if you hit the three-dot menu for more, you have forward. If this was something that was sent to multiple people, you would also see reply all. This is also where you would go for printing your message if you needed to. So it's going to give you a clear view of looking at the email, and it's going to be sized for your page correctly. If you try to print it from your browser other ways, it's not going to print correctly. So if you are here and you just go to File, Print, it's only going to print what's currently shown in view on your screen. So if it's a conversation back and forth, it's not going to get the whole thing. So just remember, you want to go to this three-dot and print. There is this button here, but that is also print all. So if you are trying to do a whole conversation back and forth, so different emails all kind of grouped together, and you want to print all, you can hit that button. However, if it's only a certain email that you need and not every single one, then I would recommend using this, just three-dot menu and then print. Okay. I think that's everything there. Like I said, in your handout, you do have, this is on page 8, just what the Gmail app looks like within a mobile device and where you can find all of these same functions that we've talked about. So obviously, since I am on desktop right now and not on that, I am not able to show that. So if that is what you are interested in seeing, please refer to the handout. And again, I can put that back in the chat at the end of the class here to make sure that you are able to get that if you haven't yet. So next we're going to look at Google Drive. Like I said, we can't look at everything because there's so many apps in Google land, but we are going to go to our Google Apps button and we're going to go to Drive. So this is essentially the cloud for your Google products. So anything that you would download from your email, you can put in Google Drive instead of physically on your computer in front of you. So it's kind of your choice on where you want to keep things. Google Drive does have, like I said, you have 15 gigabytes of storage that you're able to use. And it shows you here how much storage you have left on the left side. And then you also have My Drive, computers, so you can sync up stuff if you need to. You have a shared with me section, so if people send you stuff from other in your email and they also have documents that they're sharing with you, that popped up here. Anything that was recent shows up or starred, and then you also have your trash. And again, items are deleted after 30 days. So a lot of these are stuff that I have uploaded here specific. One that you can see here right in the front is actually the video from my wedding. So it is a really long video file, and it took us because I feel like it was eons ago already that we got married. It was done on a tape recorder VCR, like a video camera instead of a phone or specialized video recording that's doing MV4 or MP4 files. So we had to kind of get it off and convert it, and the only place that we could fit it because it was so large was on Google Drive at the time. It's also a little safer than a flash drive because flash drives corrupt after a while. So that's where I have it here. So I'm not going to play that, but you get a nice little photo. I also have photos in here. I have genealogy stuff that I've saved, some clippings from newspaper archive. We've got some presentations. I do look at other libraries to see what their presentations are and use some stuff to help me out in my classes. We have all kinds of documents that can go into Google Drive. So it can be photos, videos, PDFs, Word documents. It could be a spreadsheet. It runs the gamut, really. So here's a recording of one of my Zoom classes from previous times. So that was our consumer reports one. So anytime you want to update or upload anything here, you would click on the new button that's up here. And then you can just say you want a file upload, or you can also just straight up start a new document in one of the other Google applications. So you can say, I want to make a new Google Docs. But if we're going to upload, we do file upload. And then you would choose what you were doing. So I can upload this PowerPoint from our Internet Basics class that we did last month and hit upload. And it does let me know upload's complete. And then if I click on here, it'll take me to where it is. So here it is. And if I open it up, it's going to open it up in Google Slides, which is the equivalent of PowerPoint. However, because it is a different product, it might change some stuff a little bit in the formatting. So you might have to go through and fix a little bit here and there if you are planning to use it in Google Slides. If you're not, just leave it as is. It's just a place for storage. You can use the slideshow and play the slideshow from here if you want, but not everything will match up because it is a different program. Just to forewarn you if you do go back and forth. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this. So that's how you would upload something. If I'm trying to download something to my computer from my drive. So let's see here. Maybe I want to I'm going to click on this photo. This is one that I took off of newspapers archive, and it is the birth of my mom. Once the 1950s stuff came out, I was able to find like what issue it would have been in. And so we got here our photo. If I want to download it, I would hit my download button, which is the arrow pointing down. And now that put it into my downloads folder on my actual physical computer. So now I do have that on my computer. So that could be for any of these. And I do want to remind you to print. You would have to first download it to your physical computer. And then once it's on your physical computer, you can go ahead and print. Nothing is going to come out the right way. If there is a print button option, I'm gonna guess like 60% of the time it's not going to print correctly. Don't quote me on that, but it's not always going to come out the way that you're looking for it to come out. You first want to always download it to your physical computer from the cloud, because Google Drive is the cloud for Google. So now here I could do file and print my photo for this if I wanted it in a hard copy. So that's kind of an example of what it would be if I wanted to take something that's from my drive and print it out. I do have on your handout directions and like photos for how this looks on a mobile device as well. If you are uploading a file or downloading it, what it looks like in your drive. Next, we're gonna quick look at, and that's all there is to Google Drive. There's really not anything extra. You can share files. I guess I could show you that quick. So there's this share button. So if I wanted to share this birth announcement with somebody, I could type in their email address and then hit done, and it sends it to them. And you can also change their access so it can be restricted or anyone with the link can see it. And it does show who the owner is. But that is kind of the same thing with every file that you have. Next, we're going to look at Google Docs. So that is an equivalent to Microsoft Word or Pages for Mac. It's just your Word text application. So Google Docs looks like this one. It's a little piece of paper, and you always want to go to your menu button. Here, you can start a new document by hitting your blank button right away, or there are some templates that they show across the top. And you have your resumes, letters, reports, things like that. As you scroll down, there's recent documents. So there's different things that I've downloaded. There's also, I could sort it to A to Z or by folders. I don't have too many folders. I just kind of work off from my recents. But you can look through them. And if you wanted to start creating stuff, you do have this menu button. And you also have this menu button for hiding templates. So if I wanted to do, let's see. That's just opening. Well, we'll do folders in a second. So now that I opened up a file, it looks very similar to Microsoft Word. There are some features and functions that are only in Microsoft Word that you really can't find too many other places, but you can do a lot of the same things. So you do have all of your formatting buttons here. You can change whether it's a normal body text or headings or titles. And you have your different alignment for the pages, bullets. The great thing I think about Google Docs is that it has a function where you can collaborate with other people at the same time. So there is the share button up at the top. This is for a book club book that we did a few months back. And it does tell me I have it shared with 2 people right now. It'll tell me with me and one of my coworkers, but I can add more people. And I can also copy this link for people to send to them. But if I wanted to, my coworker could be in this file at the same time as me. And if I give them editing, an editing function, we can both be typing and editing live at the same time in the same document. So I will be able to see when she's typing and she would be able to see when I'm typing. And it always up here at the top says when the last edit was, because it is saving every time you type, it auto saves. So it does have, so that's why there's no save button here, because it auto saves. If you ever need to, after you're done with this, you can download this in a different format. So if you need to save this as a Microsoft Word document to send to other people, you can download that to your computer. You can also change it to a PDF document as well. Those are probably the only two that you would use. The other ones are different kinds that if you don't know about them, you probably don't need to use them. You do have a function here under file to rename or move this to trash or another folder. And it also does keep track of any previous versions if you need to go back. I'm not sure how far back it goes. I've never actually used it, but you are able to see the history here. So it shows when I add things and when I don't, and you can go back and restore those versions. But I do really love the sharing function. I feel like this is how this is how I was able to complete my degree in grad school. I did online classes, and so when we had teamwork assignments that we had to do, we usually were in Google Docs working on things all at the same time, even though we were in different locations. So it's super helpful, and everybody, I think, loves that function. So let's see if I want to, and I can always close this and get back to it. It would probably show up then in my drive here, but I can always open up apps and go back to Google Docs. And it's going to show the last thing I opened, which was this one here. If I wanted to make a new folder, I would actually go back to Google Drive. There, I do new and then folder. I could put book club as a folder. So then that shows up here. So now if I go with the book club questions, if I go back and open it up, I can now, under file, move, and choose my new folder. So now it's there. I can always undo it, but then that's done. Google Docs is kind of self-explanatory, a little bit like Drive. There's not a whole lot it's to it other than it's a text application. There are help sections within Google that I can get to their help page here in a moment to show you where you can go if you ever have questions or need help. There are lots of books in the library on all of this that you could request. I think the last few minutes here, we're gonna brief over calendar and then a little bit of photos. So under Google app menu button, we can choose calendar. So here, it just opens up to this week is what it's set to across the top. So you have today, it tells you what today is. And that shows you what day it's highlighted, that we're in September and that we're in week view. If I click here, I can change the view. So I could do day, and then it would be like an hourly thing, or I could do month and just see everything that way. Go back to week. It'll show me what calendars I'm seeing. Actually, I'm going to remove this calendar because that is an old one that I don't need. So that would be, I could always click on something and say, get rid of it. Up here for reminders or Middleton, I can say yes, add it or don't. And I can also change the color. So I can make that a different color. And to add events, so that's the main thing of calendar, is we hit create. And so there could be a task or an event. I could put email class today. Get started. Does not repeat, or maybe it would repeat. So you could hit what kind of thing you need. If you need to add guests, it'll send an invitation to them. So you can type in their email or their contact name. And then I can set an alarm for it to notify me 30 minutes before and hit save. And now it pops up here. Because I have, in that, it was marked as under my name. That's the color that it gives. If I click on it, it'll tell me this here. If you, in the edit, so you do have this description where you can add notes and things. That is where you could put, if it's a Zoom meeting, you could put the Zoom link there so that when you click on it, when you're in the calendar, you would have access to the link right away. Or you could put the address of where you're going. I know I've done that before for different appointments. So when I click on it, those extra notes would pop up underneath there if I had notes. That's really calendar. There's not a whole lot there. There's just really adding the event and then making sure that the right calendars are marked. Last thing that I will show you is the Google Photos. Google Photos could be a whole nother class on its own. So if you do have questions about things like that, as we're ending here, I can try and answer questions because I know often photos is something that people have the most questions about, but that is definitely more of a one-on-one thing. That is better to do. So if you do have stuff like that, we'd probably want you to do a one-on-one with me. I do sessions called Techno Minutes. And in that, there we go. You can have 30 minutes, hang out with me, and I can try to answer any tech questions that you have. And we have that at the service desks. The schedule is there. So sign up, and I do those on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I also have a coworker who does them on Saturdays. So that is an option for you. Here, when you open up Google Photos, so I have some that my phone keeps track of stuff. And it looks, and those are from my son when I was pregnant. And then it just kind of goes on. So this is like sunset pictures. But it right away just shows all your photos. You have an explore section where it tries to find people that it sees often. So it just like makes categories for you. You can turn off that function where it doesn't recognize faces if that's something that you choose. There's also a sharing section. So if you want to share albums with family members, if you hit the get started, it's going to have you select albums and who to send it to. If you have photos to upload, there is this upload section here. So you can say if it's coming from Google Drive or your computer. If you have a phone plugged in, it should recognize that, and you can also upload directly from your camera. Or whether or not you need to back up photos that are on your computer, you can also choose that option. If you want to create a shared album, like I said, you can either hit this get started, but there's also this one here too, because I think this one is more like a tutorial. It's showing you how to do it. There's favorites. I don't use Google Photos on my own very often. I just use it as a backup. So I've never used that one, but I have made a album in the past, and we can do that again. So under albums, if I want to just quickly show you how to create an album, so you can add a title. So maybe I'll just do flowers, photos. I don't know if there will be pictures of flowers here, but let's just pretend that this is a flower instead of a sunset. So you click on the photo you want, and it does give you some little tidbits. Hold shift and click on multiples if you want. And then each one of them should have the check marks, and then you hit done. And then it adds the photos in. And then you also have the option to hit add more or to share it to other people, make a slideshow, or download them to your computer or delete it. So just hit delete, and then that closes it out. But this at the top, when you hit photos, it's just going to have the photo stream, and the most recent stuff will be at the top. So after I haven't had my the backup happen on here in quite a long time, so that's why it stops at 2017. So I decided I didn't want it to back up anymore. So we did different backing up after that. So the most newest is always going to be at the top of your stream as you go down. And you can kind of move around to different years if you need to. So that's the main thing with photos. So when you go into a photo, make albums, when you go in, you have a share button. It has some different edit functions, but if you do take photos with live on it and have the motion, then it lets you know it's going to turn that off. The editing functions that are within Google Photos are okay. They're not necessarily professional in a sense, but enough for most people to do things like crop it or try to straighten it a little bit, or if you wanted to change the coloring a little bit. Then this is where you would favorite it. Or if you needed to delete it singly, you could do it that way as well. If you wanted to delete multiple, you notice when you hover over top of it, I can check mark everything. Then I could hit trash up in the top right corner. So that's how you would do multiple at the same time. That would be going into each photo singly, and then uploading. And then if you wanted to make albums, again, you click on albums and then create album. Then you would choose. If you needed a little bit more with photos, like I said, you could do a Technominute session with me to try and figure that out. But otherwise, that's kind of a quick little look at photos. There are so many applications in here that we didn't even touch. YouTube is its whole thing. Google does own YouTube. So if you have a Google or Gmail account, you also have a YouTube account. That if you don't take anything else away from tonight, that could be a new thing that you learn. You can get to the Play Store here. There's things like Google Translate, Google Meet, Duo, which is kind of like Zoom, just a video calling function. There's also chat, and then there's so many others. So this is just a small portion. If you hit the more from Google, they can show you all the stuff. You can also search for different types of products. But that is not what we'll do tonight. We're going to end here. So if you have any other specific questions, you're welcome to stay on. I haven't seen any other questions in the chat, but you can unmute yourself or put something in the chat. I can hang out here for a few minutes and answer any questions. Otherwise, if you're ready to leave, thank you so much for coming, and I hope this was helpful. I can put in the chat just one more time my handout. Okay, so it looks like it should be in now. So in the chat there, I put the handout. So you just click it to open, and then file and save to your device. And then you should have that, and it just goes through everything we talked about tonight. And like I said, it does have all of the images, like here, if you were doing it on a mobile device. For each thing, I did try to go and show. So here's like the Gmail app specifically. That is that. We'll also have that online when I post this. Later this week, I'll have this posted. All right, well, I don't see any other questions. So I think we're going to end here. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I do have, in 2 weeks, our next class is our Libby class. So that's about checking out books on your tablets and phones through the Libby app. So that's free stuff from the library, just in a online version, both ebooks and audiobooks. So that is in person here at the library. We're trying to do both virtual classes and in person. So that will be here with me at 6:30. And I hope to see you there.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You have a good night.
All right.